when the horses come. Chapter 9, verses 13 and 14. The sixth angel trumpeted, and I heard a single voice from the four horns of the golden altar before God. It said to the sixth angel, the one holding the trumpet, release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. The four angels, are they good or bad? They are bound. This means, in the context of Revelation, that they are evil angels, and those angels are in fact demonic beings. They are bound near Euphrates. It is a characteristic rather than a geographical location. Biblically speaking, Euphrates is the boundary of the promised land. It could be a reference to the Babylonian invasions. The Babylonian invasion can point out the false religion. I interpreted the fifth trumpet as atheism, but atheism will not stand until the end of time. After the popularity of atheism, the Babylonian invasion is ready to flood the world. Here is our next verse. So the four angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. And one more verse, verse 16. The number of mounted troops was 200 million. I heard their number. The army comes from the Euphrates border. However, this time it is not a Babylonian army. It is not a human army. It is a demonic army. And the number of the troops is countless. The text tells us 200 million. What does it mean? Let's compare. In China, for example, there are 165,000 active troops in their army, and around 12 million people are in reserve. So today, the entire world has around 100 million troops in reserve. The demonic army is twice as big. And chances are this number, 200 million, this is just something symbolic. In fact, the demonic army is much bigger. Verse 17 tells us, now here is how I saw the horses and those riding on them. They had breastplates that were fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulfur yellow. The heads of the horses were as heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire and smoke and brimstone. Yohanan or John describes something terrible. Not only the number of the troops is impressive, their appearance is awful. Verse 18 continues describing this picture. By these three plagues, a third of mankind was killed by the fire and the smoke and the brimstone that came out of their mouths. The previous multitude of invaders had teeth like lions. And by the way, those invaders just tortured humans. These invaders, they kill. And now these horses have heads as heads of lions. Not only their teeth like teeth of lions, but their heads are lions' heads. Fire, smoke. These things remind us about Sodom and its destruction. It's described in Genesis chapter 19. In Psalm 11 verse 6 we read that fire and brimstone and burning wind will be the portion of the wicked. The demonic army is equipped with materials from the lake of fire. And let us look at the structure of the message. Look at this. We have the beginning, out of their mouth, and the same phrase finalizes the message out of their mouth. Then we have came. Interestingly enough, like in a mirror, came. Fire and smoke and brimstone. And look at this, fire and smoke and brimstone. And what is in the middle? By these three plagues, a third of mankind was killed. Friends, in the mind of the authors of the Bible, something placed in the chiastic structure, and this structure is called chiastic, something which is placed in the middle is the most important thought. Let's read what is in the middle. By these three plagues, a third of mankind was killed. In other words, why is it important? Do you want to be killed by those demonic troops? As for me, I do not want to. The trumpet plagues culminate in the sixth trumpet vision, where the fire, smoke, and sulfur of the demonic cavalry bring death to the world that killed God's witnesses. Those people will be killed, those who persecute God's children. Verse 19 says, "For the power of the horses in their mouths and in their tails, for their tails are like serpents having heads, by which they inflict injuries. The horses have deadly weapon, tails." In Greco-Roman circles, they were monsters, and those monsters would have recalled stories about the fire-breathing chimera, which had a lion's head and a snake for a tail. This means that those demonic beings are not as unusual for the people who lived in the first century. Chimera, which had a lion's head and a snake for a tail, was in the mind of Greco-Roman people, and to them it was very understandable that such creatures would harm people, would kill them. They would be demonic. Verse 20 tells us, "But the rest of mankind, those not killed by these plagues, did not repent and turn away from the works of their hands. They would not stop worshipping demons and the idols of gold and silver and stone and wood, which cannot see or hear or walk." John or Yohanan focuses on these unrepented people. The main point of the vision is not to destroy or to punish, but to lead to repentance. However, people do not change their mind at all. Yohanan's comments emphasize how stupid it is for humanity to worship idols in the face of the trumpet plagues. What is striking that people in John's vision persist in worshipping demons, even though they have suffered attacks by demonic beings. Think about that. People are killed by demons, and people worship them. There is an obvious connection with the 10 words or 10 commandments. 10 commandments tell us no images, no murder, no adultery, no theft, and this is exactly what people do in verse 20. Humans violate those commandments and worship demons, and demons in their turn punish and kill them. Psalm 115 verse 8 tells us, "Those making them idols will become like them, everyone trusting in them. Demonic forces destroy their followers." And here the principle measure for measure works. Verse 21 finalizes the message, "And they didn't repent and turn away from their murders, or their sorceries, or their sexual immorality, or their stealing." Historically, sixth trumpet is the last warning and condition before the second coming. Likely, like I said, we are not sure, but likely, this is the false religion, which is replacing atheism at the end of times. What can I do to overcome the false religion? The only way to overcome it is to stay in the true faith.